We're live,
Are
I
we?
think. I think so.
It's the best way
Yeah.
to stay alive.
Twitter says we're live.
Well, then there we go.
Live, I think.
Yo,
All right.
welcome back to the
The
Lost Leisures. It's your boys. It's Shawn, and then it's Justin, and then Adam, and then Zach.
Names are wrong.
The most important job is done. I updated the spreadsheet.
Justin, you piece of shit!
What?
You piece of shit!
You're committing
You were
identity
streaming
theft,
Halo,
Justin.
so it was giving me the Halo stream under Adam, or above Adam, so I thought
Wild.
that's where you would be.
Wild.
Damn it.
I'm Adam for today, guys.
Move the names around. While I angrily move the names around, what's going on, guys? What's chilling with you dudes?
Just
Getting yelled at per usual.
Well, Justin, if you hadn't
You
been
know.
such a selfish bastard, we wouldn't be yelling at you.
It's true.
I deserve to be selfish from time to time.
Yeah, but like not all the time.
Oh.
Ow,
Ah!
my
Oh, it's so
feelings.
bright. Oh, God.
Wait,
Ah,
Giselle?
no. Okay. Welcome back to the Lost Ledgers.
Welcome back. We're back.
Shawn, and then Justin below me, and then Adam and Zach. Nothing's going on with Why don't we just jump into what's going on right now, guys?
Yeah, let's do that.
I love jumping.
Look, we got a lot of spells. We came at you with elemental spells this week. You know, elements, things like fire, ice, earth. We meant to do this specifically because there's too many fire spells, but it didn't stop one of us from making a fire spell.
Fuck off.
That's okay. Two of us made two different spells with the same name. So,
Hey.
speaking of which, we got some spells on the screen that are my spells. I could just go ahead and start reading these, unless you guys have any objections.
I do object, but I'm not going to stop you. So
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe you can object after I read off these spells one by one.
no, I'm going to object at a point at random. So be ready for that.
All right, I'll be ready for that. All right. Spell number 1, Snow Prison. 4th level conjuration for druids, sorcerers, and wizards. Casting time 1 action, range 120 feet, with a cylinder area of 60 feet. Concentration up to 10 minutes. The component spell of verbal and somatic. A blue-gray cloud appears in the shape of a cylinder that is 10 feet tall and 60-foot radius, centered on a point you can see within range directly above you. The spell fails if you can't see a point in the air where the cloud could appear. For example, if you had a room that can't accommodate the cloud. This is just text that's taken straight from Call Lightning.
Nice.
Snow falls directly below the cloud and fills all space directly beneath that is not sheltered by cover. When you cast this spell, you can designate any number of creatures you can see to be unaffected by the snow. The area is lightly obscured for affected creatures. When an affected creature enters the snow for the first time on a turn or starts its turn there, its movement speed is halved, and it must make a dexterity saving throw. On a failed save, it's restrained until the end of its next turn. If a creature fails this saving throw 3 times within the duration of the spell, it is petrified, frozen in magical ice, and immune to all damage until the spell ends or until they are removed from the area. If you are outdoors in snowy conditions when you cast the spell gives you control over the existing storm instead of creating a new one, doubling the radius of the affected area. That's spell number 1. It's basically, I liked the idea of Call Lightning giving you an area of effect that you influence. Obviously, this is a little bit different because this gives you an action to use. But the purpose of this spell, obviously, is it's crowd control, basically. And one of the pictures that I think of when I think of this spell is like a warden who's like capturing people that need to be arrested or something. Like maybe there's been like a jailbreak and this warden shows up and just freezes all of the escapees in place before they have time to run away. And I just thought it was kind of badass. Obviously, it takes 3 failed saves. They are dex saves, so if you are restrained, you do have disadvantage on them. So once you're restrained, it can be tough to get out of it if someone else can't get you out of the snow. But it is 3 turns that you have to fail this. So unless you're really bad at dex saves, even with disadvantage, you should have time to be able to knock out the concentration or to make your save and get away if you have the means to do so.
Right,
If not,
yeah,
you're
because
probably... If not, you're probably too weak and you deserve to be captured.
Right, because you're making the save once as a straight roll and twice at disadvantage. So like that's a plenty of time to make your save. But I think this is really cool. My only quibble is that a 60-foot radius cylinder seems huge, but I mean, other than that,
Yeah.
It's the size
I
of
just-
Call Lightning. I just copied Call Lightning.
oh,
I
does
was
Call Lightning
maybe-
also let you double the radius of the area?
Not
if there's
that
already a
part.
storm?
What Call
Okay.
Lightning does instead is it increases the damage when you're in an area that's already storming. Because this spell doesn't do
Right.
damage. I was like, what's another way you could do this? I don't want to make it easier to freeze people, but making the spell bigger.
Yeah.
I could see it being like 45-foot radius and then doubling that, but that's a very odd shape that's not really in the game often, but that's not really
What
that
if
big
it
of a
was a
deal.
60-foot cylinder that just increased to a 90-foot cylinder when it was snowing?
Oh, that makes sense too. Instead of doubling it, I
Yeah.
also considered making it smaller just because it does have movement, so it makes it even harder to get away once you're actually in there. But the
Right, so
idea
that's the thing,
is
if
like
you
the best
spend
place
your-
to. Sorry.
If you spend your full movement like getting into the area on the first turn and then fail your dex save, or actually even if you make the save, because your speed is halved even if you make it. Yeah, so that's the thing. If you use your
Yeah,
full
it's just
movement
halved.
going in, even if you make your save, it'll take you 2 full turns to get out. So
Yeah, it would be a lot. It would be a lot. So I was thinking of playing with the area of this one.
yeah, maybe I
Yeah.
don't know, maybe going down to like 30-foot radius, double to 60 when you're already in the snow.
Yeah, that just sounded small to me for some reason, but now that I think about it, 30-foot radius is actually massive.
Right, yeah, because that's the thing. 30-foot radius is 60-foot diameter, so that's like
Yeah.
that's bigger than most battlefields.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I think my only concern with this is the size, because I'm trying to think of like different ways that this would be like. I mean, it's not overpowered or anything, and it could be like annoying if you used it against PCs, but it could be interesting in like them getting captured by this person they're trying to chase. They use this like spell, especially if they're like a higher level person than the party's trying to chase down, and then like they immediately get stopped by the snowstorm that this guy creates, and like,
yeah.
and there's counterplays with like freedom of movement and stuff. So
Freedom of movement.
well, and with somebody who made the save just carrying you out.
yeah.
Or knocking out the guy's concentration, because you're free to
Yeah, and
concentration
concentrate.
as soon as the spell ends. So
Yeah.
concentration only lasts that long.
I really like your petrified and immune to all damage, just to make the
Yeah.
petrified condition not as punishing.
yeah.
'Cause, I mean, you're normally resistant to all damage when you're petrified, but like that's still very abusable, especially with a 10-minute cast or duration. Like, if the
Yeah.
party used this against like a big bad and they failed those saves, the big bad's just dead. Like, there's nothing
Yeah.
they can do.
Yeah,
Um,
I think the immune to damage that makes it not so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you know, the party uses this on a big bad and they fail, like you can still cast cast certain spells on like the target.
Yeah, you can swarm the guy in D-bus, but that's not any more beneficial than just like paralyzing the big bad.
Yeah.
And in fact, paralyzing the big bad is probably more useful because you get the auto crits on that. Whereas this you're just immune to all damage. You can only debuff.
My only complaint: give this to rangers, just because I think it'd be fucking sick as shit for a ranger to use this spell.
Oh yeah, I agree. I should give this to Rangers. This should definitely go to Rangers. I don't know why
think
I
you
didn't
should
do
give it to warlocks too.
So I didn't get the Warlocks because I compared it to a few other spells. Like Call Lightning was one. I compared it to Sleet Storm, and stuff like that. Like the kind of various like spells. Now this spell is curious. I actually consider not giving this to Druids just because the nature of the snow is different than what could occur naturally. It's a very magical thing. And I was like, is that really something that Druids do? But they have like the Storm of Vengeance and stuff. So I was like, this seems fair game. But I was wondering about Warlock. I'm still not sure if I want to go to Warlocks. I'm just not 100% on the flavor for Warlocks there.
Yeah, like there's like only one ice themed thing that I can think of with them, and that's Tomb of Levistus.
There's Armor of Agathis. That's
Armor of Agathis
right,
also.
Armor of Agathis.
I think it
forgot
could
about
work
that.
with warlocks.
I think I could. I mean, I'm not like super against it. It just wasn't one of the first things about my mind. Ranger, though, I think Ranger should definitely get this. I think that fits them very well.
That would be cool.
I think this would be a dope ass Ranger spell. But yeah, that's Snow Prison. I just thought it'd be cool to have like a spell that was like fully utility, but in a very useful way, and also very dramatic. I think there's a very dramatic way of using this spell.
Okay, you know what's wild to me? There are 3 different Warlock subclasses that get Cone of Cold as a subclass spell. At that point, why is it not just on the fucking Warlock spell list? Like, if this is such a cool thing for Warlocks to have, that you're giving it to 3 different subclasses, maybe it just should have been on the spell list.
Yeah,
I think there's a similar instance with Paladins. I can't recall what the spell is at the time.
Misty Step.
No, there's only 2. Well, to be fair, 2 out of the 3 base Paladins do get Misty Step.
Wait. Ancients and
Vengeance.
Vengeance gets Misty Step?
Yes, they do.
That feels weird to me.
Oh, fuck yeah, they do.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead because we have a lot of spells. I'm just gonna go ahead and move on to the next one.
Yeah.
So this one's called Blizzard. You might see that name later on. 6th level conjuration, druids, sorcerers, wizards. Action 1, range 150 feet, 60-foot cylinder. Verbal
You
somatic.
like those 60-foot
concentration,
cylinders.
Up to 1 minute. Until the spell ends, bolstering wind and biting snow fill a 30-foot tall cylinder in a 60-foot radius centered on a point you choose within range. The area is heavily obscured. That should be lightly obscured. And exposed flames in the area are doused. When you cast this spell, you can designate any number of creatures you see to be unaffected by the spell. The area is difficult terrain for affected creatures. At the start of each of your turns, each affected creature must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, it takes 4d8 cold damage, or half as much as a successful one. On each of your turns till the spell ends, you can use your action to do one of the following effects. Flurry Sense. The area becomes heavily obscured, and you gain blind sight for the affected area until the end of your next turn. Ensnaring Sleet. Affected creatures must succeed in a strength saving throw, or the movement speed is reduced to 0 until the end of their next turn. Silencing Winds. Affected creatures are deafened and must succeed on a Constitution saving throw and cannot speak until, must succeed or cannot speak until the end of the next turn. And then finally, at higher levels, when you cast a spell using a spell slot of 7th level or higher, the damage increases by 1d8 for each spell slot above 6. And if you use a 9th level slot, you can use these actions as a bonus action instead.
Nice.
And that's it. That's Blizzard. Yeah, this should be lightly obscured. It shouldn't be heavily obscured. That'd be busted as fuck.
Right, especially since one of the actions is to make it heavily obscured.
Yeah, that would just that's why that should be lightly obscured. That was because I copy and pasted that from Fog Cloud, maybe? No, something
Maybe.
else. Something else I copied that from. I forgot to edit it. But yeah,
I think this spell is like, this is a slam dunk to me. Like, I don't think there's anything that I want to change about this. I like all of the parts. It feels powerful enough for a 6th level crowd control spell. I almost said cloud control, which it kind of is because it's storm based. But no, I think this is baller as hell, and I like that there's like big benefits for upcasting because like it's usually pretty underwhelming to think about like, do I want to use my 9th level spell slot to upcast something? But for this, it's like, I don't know, that gives me like powerful bonus action options. That's tempting. Like, it's at least worth thinking about. And I like spells that at least make you think about upcasting them all the way up the chain. Like, I think that's awesome.
This is Flurry Sense is still kind of growing on me a little bit because I'm trying to think of like, it feels like there wouldn't be too many instances when you would want to use Flurry Sense.
I mean, the same instances where you would want to use Darkness, like
or like Fog Cloud. And I know why you feel that way, and it's because heavily obscuring an area means it's bad for your allies as well. But I think that if you're using this spell with your party, you probably have some dynamics that you're working, or you as the caster have deemed it worthy enough for you to get out of danger enough that your party's, because it's not just your party that's affected, it's everybody that's affected. So, like, for your party, it doesn't actually change too much, except their inability to target things that are at a distance, but all your melee fighters, for instance, will already be next to who they have to fight. And they'll have advantage on the attacks and disadvantage on the checks at the same time, so it doesn't affect them at all.
Yeah. It
so
just
really,
means that they can't have advantage.
yeah, it's just going to affect your backline if you have them. And if like your backline necessarily doesn't necessarily have to be in this area in the first place. And
I am starting to like it more thinking about like a druid that wild shapes and has like this
Ooh.
spell going on at once. Because I think
that would
that's
be badass.
really cool. Like
That would be badass.
especially an archdruid like casting this for where it's like, well, I casted it, and I'm just going to make my attacks in my wild shape form, and then as a bonus action, I am just going to change up how this fucking blizzard is. I think that like slam dunk fits like the druid perfectly well.
That would be badass.
I was checking the damage to see how it makes up with other 6th level spells. I think it's fine. Looking at it, 'cause I was a little bit concerned of it being over a minute, but it seems fine.
Yeah, the damage I wanted to keep it low because it procs passively. So like I compared it to Spiritual Guardians, which is I think 3d8. Because it's a similar effect where like at the start of each of your turns you just deal damage to everybody.
Yeah.
And that also makes it difficult terrain for your enemies. So like that area effect is very similar to Spiritual Guardians, but I wanted the damage to be a little bit higher because it's a stronger spell. But I really just wanted the actions you get from this to be like the bread and butter of this spell.
Yeah, because that's the thing. This is only, in terms of damage, this is only as good as a 4th level Spirit Guardians, which is 2 whole spell slots lower. I think the actions are the bread and butter here. The damage is just a like nice little cherry on top.
Yeah, I do think it's awesome that because I mean even just in our last comment that we had in your campaign, me using Call Lightning for the first time, like that was awesome to be able to do something like that, like on each turn, or at least have
so cool.
the option to use that or something else. I love that you have that here, but you have multiple options things you can do.
Yeah, that's
I think that's super cool.
Because I have Call Lightning on one of my characters, and you use Call Lightning. I was like, I really like this spell a lot.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, it kind of does what Witch Bolt is supposed to do in a way. Where it's like,
Witch Bolt didn't suck so bad.
Yeah, it gives you a valuable action you can use every turn, but doesn't keep you to that. You can do other things if you need to. But it's powerful enough to be worth it to use your action for that thing. Like, and I was like, that's what I wanted from this. I wanted it to be, like, worth it to use your action, if you use this, but still like have the option to do other things instead. And yeah, I dig spells like that give you just like this. It's almost like the investiture spells where it's like it gives you this like this buff, but then also like a really cool thing you can do on top of it. Which I think is
you know how much I love the investiture spells, man. So much that I designed as many of them as are in the books.
They're good spells.
This is awesome. I don't think much, if anything, needs to be changed with this one.
Awesome. Well, then, in that case, we're going to speedrun this because we do have a lot of things to go through.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get to my third spell here. Then we'll take a break from my spells and start looking at other people's. This one's called Water Slip. First level transmutation, Druid, Sorcerer, Wizard. Casting time 1 action, range self, components verbal, duration 1 round. You take out a watery form until the end of the turn. You choose whether your equipment falls to the ground in your space or emerges into your new form. While you're in your watery form, your movement speed becomes 5. You can't talk melee objects. You can't attack or cast spells, but you can escape any non-magical restraints, no action required, and you can move through a space as narrow as 1 inch wide without squeezing. And that's it.
This is awesome. This reminds me a lot of the spell that I designed, Pocket. Like it's a narrow utility spell where it's like, I might not need this every day or even most days, but one day I'm really going to need it and it's going to be perfect for the job. I think that's awesome. I love that kind of spell. It reminds me of how spells used to be in like 2nd edition, where it was like, oh, there was so much niche in spells. It was like, oh, you've got this spell that turns snakes into sticks. And then you have a second different spell to turn sticks into snakes. Like,
I think my issue with this is as a if you are a caster who doesn't prepare your spells, like the sorcerer, uh, I don't think I'm ever going to take this spell.
That's the thing. A spell with such a niche application is really rough, in particular for sorcerers, just because they get so few
Is
spells
it that
known.
niche though? You can get into so many places you can't otherwise with this spell. All of those locked doors that you wish you can go through, all of those gates you can't go through, falling into the sewer if you can't open a grate, or going through a portcullis or a window. If you're in a jail cell or something, you can get out easily. Like it's definitely.
I think it's great for a certain kind of sorcerer, but like
Yeah.
I agree with Justin that it is, when you're playing a sorcerer, every single one of your spells known is a precious resource.
Yes.
And so like using one of them on something like this, it's tempting, but it's maybe not what you want to be using it for. Although on the other hand, once you have access to like second and third level spells, you probably don't need your first level damage dealing spells anymore. Just swap one of them for this. Like,
yeah. I also think that like this kind of gives an interesting niche compared to like Misty Step. Because Misty
Right.
Step is like kind of the advanced version of the spell in some ways, where it's like you can get to those places that you can see otherwise that you can't get into, and you can get out of grapples, which is a huge thing for casters. If like the DM is like being cautious or conscious about like tying casters down, make sure they don't get away with stuff.
Yeah.
This is a good escape option for those kinds of situations. I think this is definitely a spell that you take if you have a certain kind of like character you're trying to role play. If you want to like that slippery type of character, like who gets in a bad times and like wants to get out of those situations, or wants to get into bad times and gets themselves into situations they shouldn't be getting into because of it.
This is a hilarious spell for rogues.
Why not bards?
I think this is phenomenal since it's on the Arcane Trickster list. Like,
yeah, I was thinking about what class I should give this to. I think bards still makes sense, and I think warlocks also could make sense as well. I defaulted to druid, sorcerer, wizard for a lot of these spells.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, when you're designing elemental spells, I think that's a fine default list.
Yeah.
That's what I found myself doing with a lot of them. But I think that warlocks would be hard to use this spell. Like,
yeah, I didn't give it to warlocks because this doesn't upscale, and like you said, it is sort of a niche use. What I could see this being though is a warlock invocation. You can do it at will.
Yeah, that's an invocation to do this either like once per short rest or at will, something like that.
At will, I think would be dope.
At will, yeah.
I don't see why you shouldn't be able to do this at will. You
Actually,
can do other things
that would be
at will.
That would be a great. Are there? I don't think there are any, but I think that would be an awesome invocation that's restricted to the Fathomless.
Oh yeah. There are some subclass restricted.
Are there? Because there's pact restricted ones, but are there patron restricted ones?
There were in UA, maybe not published, but there definitely were in UA.
I don't think they published any of them because all of the ones that we think of as Hexblade ones are actually Pact of the Blade.
Yeah. I'm not. There are warlock invocations that specify if you have a hex ability, whether it's the hex spell or the hexblade. So in a way, that's restricted to the hexblade if you don't have hex. But anyway, I definitely don't know if I would want to put this on the warlock because it's more of a trap option for them than other classes. Because warlocks really should get a lot of spells that scale with their level because of the way that they cast. Unless you're using spell points like we do. But
although actually, I think. And if you're going to give the warlock something that doesn't upcast well, it should be at like 3rd or 4th level so that they aren't missing out that much.
Yeah, definitely. So like you were saying something, Zach?
No.
Okay. I also want to go to the artificer, but that's the last thing I want to say about that. We can go ahead and slip on by to the next page, which I believe are Justin's spells. Yep. Hey, remember this spell that we just did?
Yeah, remember that spell that we just saw, guys?
Again.
Let's see which one's better.
Well, Justin did say that he made it a C- spell. So
no. Justin, that's not what I said.
Justin, why are your components out of order?
I don't know.
Oh my god.
You know what? I knew there was something that I forgot when I made these spells. No, I didn't say the spell was a C- spell. I said that the amount of spells I was doing was 2, and that I'll just passed with a C- on this homework assignment.
Oh, okay.
So he gave
But
C-
anyway-
effort.
But anyways, frost spells. As I traveled back to the north to try and find the Hogless tribes that had shown me the Mammothine tribal gear, my guide insisted on showing me the village of Raseri and its natural hot springs. Naturally, I chatted with a local shaman who showed me newer ways to manipulate the elemental frost magics of her homeland. Flash Freeze is a 3rd level transmutation spell available to druids, rangers, sorcerers, and wizards. Casting time of 1 action, range of 90 feet. The components are supposed to be verbal and semantic. Or
Somatic.
yeah. For a duration of 1 minute, not concentration. The ground in a 20-foot radius centered on a point within range freezes and becomes slick. Any creature within that range when the spell is cast must make a Constitution saving throw, taking 4d8 cold damage on a failure and half as much on a success. The area becomes difficult terrain for the duration, and a creature must make a Dexterity saving throw or fall prone if they attempt to move more than 5 feet on top of the ice. When you upcast it, the damage goes up by 1d8.
Sounds like the spell Grease, but it does some cold damage.
You know what? I didn't even think about Grease.
How do you not think about Grease?
My immediate thing with this is it feels pretty similar to Sleet Storm. Sleet Storm also affects the cylinder area, and also knocks people prone. It doesn't deal damage though.
Yeah, that was.
I always think that it does. Every time I'm looking at Sleet Storm, I'm like, okay, when are we getting to the damage? And then it never comes, and I'm just like, oh, okay.
It does force concentration checks, which is nice, but
yeah, I think that this is pretty much Sleet Storm, just with damage as opposed to a forced concentration check. And otherwise, it's pretty much the same because it's difficult terrain. It's a save or fall prone, dex save or fall prone. Though this one procs if they move more than 5 feet, whereas Sleet Storm procs if they just at the start of their turn.
Yeah, Sleet Storm is also concentration, which I made Flash Freeze not.
Yeah, I think it might be too similar. But yeah, in comparison, I also think the fact that it deals damage is not concentration, maybe it should be a higher spell slot as well.
Yeah, especially since it's all yeah.
Because the damage is already proccing con saves, just like Sleet Storm does, but it also does damage. So either this, I think it's too similar to Sleet Storm, just period. Unfortunately, but if you were to level this, I'd probably make it at least 4th level, just as comparison to Sleet Storm, because Sleet Storm's not a bad spell. No. It might be a little bit underwhelming, personally, I feel, but
I think the thing it's lacking is damage.
Yeah,
I kind of feel the same way about Sleet Storm.
And it's like the difference in like if you're just like, oh, Sleet Storm's lacking damage, a lot of people are just like, well, cast Ice Storm instead. But Ice Storm's damage is kind of
Yeah. I didn't know there was a spell called Ice Storm until you just said that, so I'm gonna look it up.
But yeah, I hadn't even thought about looking at Sleet Storm in terms of
what if
like look?
How did you do 2 ice spells? You didn't look at the ice spells that exist in the game. What's wrong with you? That's what I did.
Because I didn't base Blizzard or Flash Freeze on Sleet Storm.
Well, but you need to know what niche you're filling. You need to know, like, okay, I'm designing an ice spell. Let me look at what already exists so that I don't duplicate effort.
The niche was cold damage at 3rd level. Admittedly, yeah, it was cold damage at 3rd level because there's not really other spells. And
there's one. There's Snowball Storm.
Wait, was that one of your homebrews, or is that one of the?
No, that's
from the book. Snillic's Snowball Swarm.
Oh, sorry, it's my bad. It's 2nd level. You're okay.
Oh, okay.
So
yes.
I don't know if
does Hunger of Hadar deal cold damage?
It might.
I think it does.
I think it does.
Yeah.
What's up,
I think I don't know if your like main want for the spell is the slick area.
That was like a main want, but I felt like, oh, a 20-foot radius is a pretty big radius. I probably would have made it a larger radius
Well, because what I was going to suggest is, what if you made it similar to that that one grasping arrow ability that I had, where this is a flash freeze where you put it on an area, and if it goes on somebody, if they move more than 5 feet, they take a 1d8
yeah.
damage.
That'd be
That's
cool,
a-
and
that's
that
a
would
cool thing.
that would help
I think-
differentiate it from Sleet Storm.
Yes.
I also think that fits the name of the spell better as well.
Yeah.
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 I like that.
So
I
it
like
does
the
the
idea
initial
of it.
damage, and then like if they move 5 feet, or they have to take an action to like get it off of them,
Yeah.
but it still lasts for a
I love-
minute. It's not concentration because it's just a flash on them.
I wouldn't even make it last a minute. I just make it instantaneous because if they can just take an action, take it off. That's the cost for it.
Well,
It just
Well-
lasts until
yeah.
they
Yeah.
get it off.
what if
I'd,
you
Yeah,
prob-
just change
I'd
the
probably do con save for damage in half, but if you succeed, you're not covered in ice, and if you
Yeah.
don't succeed, or if you do succeed, or don't succeed, you are. So that way, like, you're punished for failing it because now, until you take an action, you're going to be falling prone if you don't take it off. And then you could
Yeah.
probably increase the damage a little bit,
yeah,
honestly.
probably
So
yeah,
it's like-
bump it up to, like, fireball and lightning both exist.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool third level ice thing to pair
Yeah.
up with lightning and fireball. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah, 'cause that's why I said I didn't know if like the slickness of the thing was like your
That
full
was-
intent
that
there,
was-
but like if that already exists in a spell, maybe this change would help.
I was thinking about it.
that's a very elegant solution. I like that solution a lot.
I
Yeah,
really like
that's
it too.
that's a clever fix, Zach.
Yeah, because when I first like thought of the spell when I was at work, I like kind of just like looking off in the distance, and I was like, what if I just was able to just like point my finger out there and just make a fucking like layer of ice, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that'd
Uh,
be dope.
But,
Not to mention the fact that this would be great for decorating your home because trees covered in ice look fucking sick.
that
do.
they are.
Lots
that
of
they
things covered in
do.
ice.
Just as long as you don't hit the point where they'll just like crack in half.
Yeah, you would be dealing a bunch of cold damage to them, so they might break, but
Yeah.
it's worth it for fashion.
We have to make sacrifices sometimes to look cool.
Look, I'm gonna say it. I think Zach slam dunked
I
this.
said
I think,
cool.
Yeah.
I don't get it, but I think Zach slam dunked the fix on this one with the initial problem with it
Absolutely.
being too close to Sleet Storm. Now I think it's a great flavorful ice third level spell, just like Lightning Bolt and Fireball.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Good job, Zach. I guess if we don't have.
I mean, the solution wouldn't have came without your idea, so
I'll go on to the next spell, which is also named Blizzard.
Blizzard.
It's an 8th level conjuration spell available to druids.
We're
sorcerers,
taking a vote at the end of this podcast to
No,
decide which of our spells.
no.
Which
said
of our
last
no.
week.
No,
Let me
we-
finish the fucking sentence to decide which of these two spells gets the name Blizzard.
I think that's too close to picking favorites.
We can't
They
name them
both
both
changed.
Blizzard.
I say rename both of them.
Bullshit. No, there needs to be a spell in the game called Blizzard.
I agree with Shawn.
We do it on a different week then. You guys both have to change.
Casting time of 1 action, range of 120 feet, components, verbal semantic material, a snowflake in a glass bottle. Duration
Ooh.
concentration up to 1 minute. A howling, blinding snowstorm gathers centered on a point within range. The storm is a 60-foot radius, 120-foot high cylinder. You can select a number of creatures, 5 plus your spellcasting modifier, that are immune to the spell's effects. When the storm first arrives or a creature first enters the storm, they must make a Constitution saving throw or take 10d8 cold damage on a failed save and half as much on a successful save. At the start of a creature's turn, they take 2d8 cold damage and must make a Strength saving throw or be knocked prone. While inside the storm, a creature cannot hear or see outside of the storm and must make a Wisdom Perception check in order to see inside of the storm. Creatures outside of the storm cannot see inside of the storm and can only hear the howling winds. Ranged weapon attacks from outside the storm are impossible, and a creature inside the storm makes ranged weapon attacks at disadvantage.
All right, this is fairly similar.
So, for the select a number of creatures
Yeah.
that are immune to the spell's effects, that number either needs to be lower or there needs to be no limit.
I don't
Because
think you need
5
to
plus your spellcasting modifier is basically no limit by the time you have
I-
8th level spells. Like,
I know
That-
that there's I know that there's other spells that like have similar things like this, and I didn't have the time to go through
There
and like,
are.
try to find them.
I don't
There's
think
a
you
couple-
need the limit, especially at 8th level.
Yeah, I don't think you can be. I think that's the thing is that there
Like-
doesn't have to be a limit. And I
Yeah,
agree
then
with
I-
Adam. I think by that level you're 10, and usually you only care about not hitting your party.
Oh, I know the
Um,
main thing that I was thinking of. It was the fucking Storm Sorcerer's ability for where they can essentially cast Fly on like
mm,
11 people. But
Well, and I mean picking targets for a buff, that's one thing.
yeah,
But picking exemptions from a crowd control spell, 5 plus your spellcasting modifier is such a big number that it's basically infinite. And so at that point it's just bookkeeping. So either make it a smaller number
10,
or make it infinite.
infinity.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm the expert here, damn it. They're basically the same.
Yeah, I mean, I like the effect. I think there are obviously some similarities between our spells because they're both
Yeah.
blizzards.
Right.
I think that you're very married to the knocked prone effect for ice spells.
Honestly, I was trying to think of like, I was like, or should their movements be reduced by half? But then, oh fuck, I forgot to. Did I not fucking say that the spell? I forgot to say that the spell is difficult terrain. Oops.
I
forgot
know
to
something
do
was
that.
missing.
When I was coming up with the spell, I was using Storm of Vengeance as reference for quite a few things, such as the very large radius that the storm is. Along with I I didn't want to do like kind of the tiered levels that Storm of Vengeance has, because I often think that Storm of Vengeance is kind of a bad spell.
Storm of Vengeance is kind of weird. It's basically the phase system that we use for our spells, but like a very like, I don't know. It takes too long. It takes
Yeah.
5 rounds for it to get to its final effect. Its final effect's not that great.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
it's
and
like
the
one,
effects don't build upon each other. They're all different effects each round.
Yeah, they're all like essentially random, it feels like.
Yeah, just like it's like acid rain, and then like snow, and then like fire or something. It's very strange. But yeah, I mean, I think this definitely hits the idea of the blizzard. I think honestly, it might be a little weak for 8th level.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. This definitely fits the picture of like a blizzard spell for me, for sure. Like
Yeah.
this is like I think of this for sure.
You could keep the name Blizzard, by the way. I thought of a different name for my spell.
um
Excuse me.
I think this might even fit Blizzard more. Well, no, both of your guys' Blizzards fit Blizzard, but
let me take a look at in terms.
but
of,
I think you might be able to lower like for 8th level even.
well,
My my one thing is that this does there's no save on the consistent damage. It's just you take that damage and then it's possible that you're knocked prone as well.
Yeah, I was going through and looking at like different spells damage levels, for example. So for example, Firestorm does 7d10 damage. But that's like just like instantaneous, and it's a 7th level spell. But it is a very large spell. Actually, I don't even think it's as big as Blizzard. 10-foot cubes, as long as each cube is facing one another.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do the math for that. But I think that Blizzard is still a larger radius.
10-foot cubes is just 40 squares, basically.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, wait, I continue, Justin. But I have a statement once you're done.
Go with your statement, because I was trying to find other spells
Hold
that
on,
have like
sorry. Oh, whoops,
other.
hold on. Sorry.
Okay, so the thing I was looking up was
hold on.
the
I just wanted I had to refresh because I need to refresh.
Blizzard of the
Nice.
Gods. Wow.
the thing I was looking up was
Wow.
the recommended damage like based on spell level from the DMG.
Yeah.
And based on the DMG, this is like exactly on par for how much damage an 8th level spell should deal against multiple targets with save having.
Oh,
Is
I
that
guess it does make
including the
sense.
2d8 per round guaranteed after that though?
So the 2d8 per round guaranteed. What the DMG has to say about that is that automatic damage only requiring concentration. Unless the spell level is very high or the damage very low, this kind of spell should afford the target a saving throw every round to end the damaging effect. I think 8th level is high enough that it's considered very high, and
Fair.
2d6 is... that's 2d8. Maybe knock that down to 1d8 since it's automatic. Like, automatic no save.
Yeah, I'd be fine if it was 1d8.
I think
And
10
plus
damage.
with the-
I think
plus with
10
the
damage every round
knockdown.
is fine. Because
That's
really,
like, I don't think
what are you
2d8 's
what
like
are you
crazy.
killing
So,
with
yeah.
10 damage every round? Like, if you're killing, if something's dying from 10 damage every round, it's probably a mook. If it's like a BBHE, it probably means nothing to them really.
True.
Yeah, 2d8
Yeah,
is
at 8th
probably
level,
fine
2d8
then.
's
And if it is a mook,
maybe
you
level
probably
fine.
if it is a mook, you probably already killed them with the 10d8.
Yeah. That's the thing. 10d8 is... the expected value of 10d8 damage is 1/2
45.
of 1 point of damage less than the recommended for an 8th level spell with several targets save halves.
So what you're
Makes
saying
sense.
is bump it up to 12d8, and we'll call it a day.
That would overshoot the recommendation for 9th level spells, so probably not.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at 10d8. I would say it's actually interesting thinking about it because there's not too many spells that have like odd amounts of dice. Like outside of like the like lower end spells that do like 3d6 or 3d8 or stuff like that.
I mean, if you decide to exclude the numbers 1 and 3, then yeah, that rules out a lot of the odd numbers.
I will say,
I meant like the lower level spells.
I will say, I'm not sure how I feel about the perception check inside the storm. Obviously, you mean perception check against your save DC.
Yeah, I was either thinking of either your save DC or 20. I just didn't know. I didn't know.
I mean, at that level, your save DC is probably about 20 anyway.
Yeah.
And it would reward players for having, higher stats.
The only benefit
I think it would be just, I don't know. I feel like you should
just make it lightly obscured. Like,
yeah, just make it lightly obscured. Like, that seems reasonable to me. Or maybe like, no, I think lightly obscured is probably the best solution.
I just want to double check to see what the full lightly obscured is.
I believe you get disadvantage on your attack to lightly obscured. Well, no, because that wouldn't make any sense. Because you get disadvantage if you're heavily obscured, if you can't see.
Creatures have disadvantage on wisdom perception checks that rely on sight.
And that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
I would say maybe you could even limit their vision, like make it so they can only see like 15 feet ahead of them or something like that.
Yeah, I like that better than the perception check because you're already making a strength save and then you have to make a perception check and
a con save at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think it's weird that ranged attacks into the thing are affected, but ones that are inside the thing are really affected. What is happening between the outside of the storm and the inside of the storm that makes projectiles not work from outside but still work from inside?
Difference in wind from trying to pass that threshold.
Yeah, that's
just like a sheer line between the wind.
Yeah.
Sure.
And also as you are passing into the storm for the first time, even if that's when you take that.
Your arrow is taking 10d8 cold damage, so it just dies.
Pretty much, yeah. Actually,
I think it would be enough to just say that creatures outside of it can't see inside. Because how else are you gonna make ranged weapon attacks? Like, you can't even see your targets.
I mean, you could maybe blind fire in there, and a DM could maybe have you do it at disadvantage, and it's possible you hit something. I'm fine with it saying impossible. I'm fine with it just being impossible.
The reason, another reason with that was the very last thing with Storm of Vengeance. It's literally the last fucking line that they have on is that ranged attacks are impossible. I think it was
so that last sentence is just cribbed from Storm of Vengeance?
No, I think he's saying that ranged attacks period are impossible.
Yeah, ranged attacks period are impossible.
Regardless if they're inside or outside going inside.
I mean, you could just take that line from Storm of Vengeance then.
Yeah.
It does say ranged weapon attacks in the area are impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just take that line from Storm of Vengeance.
Yeah, I don't know if you need to have this differentiation of being inside and outside.
Okay.
Especially for an 8th level spell, I don't think it's that big of a deal to make range, especially if we're gonna be limiting the vision.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
like,
fair.
how valuable are ranged attacks anyway if you can only see 15 feet in front of you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe 10 feet. I think I like 10 feet more.
Sure.
This
Honestly, I would go with 5 feet. I
5
think just
feet
limiting
would make it
vision.
impossible to get opportunity attacks on people, though, wouldn't it?
That could be a benefit in your eye as a caster. But I mean,
this is starting to become a terrifying DM use spell.
I mean, most 8th level spells are.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Um,
Most players never get access to 8th or 9th level spells, so.
Yeah, there's not really a way to get.
These are the DM spells.
You're in DM town now, baby.
Yeah, dude, it's 8th level. Make it as strong as you fucking want.
Well, not as strong as I want because there still are 9th level spells.
Yeah, I think making ranged attacks impossible, and really that's
10
the one.
foot for sight
Yeah.
is fine.
Ranged attacks possible, 10-foot radius of sight, and just make it not affect as many creatures as you'd like. Which would make it an annoying spell for the DM to fight against as well.
Yeah.
Because it just basically nullifies giant crowds of enemies, essentially. Which I
Yeah.
feel like an 8th level spell should be able to do.
Yeah.
But also as a DM, if you know that someone in your party has the spell, you probably would also prepare for it a little bit.
Right,
It's
but I
also
mean, how do you
concentration.
prepare for it? Like,
Yeah, but if you're the type of DM, okay, I guess this is the subject we talk about now this week. But if you're the DM and your players have a powerful ability and you always counter it, you're an asshole. Let them
That's
use their cool
fair.
abilities.
That's
If
fair.
you are a problem at the table if you nullify all of your players' cool abilities.
Yeah.
That's just the short and long of it, guys.
Yeah, you should be putting them in situations where they can use this shit and be
Yeah.
like, "Fuck yeah,
Yeah.
Blizzard!"
You can do
well, and you
can-
should counter them sometimes.
Yeah,
but
sometimes.
Yeah.
you shouldn't counter
Yeah.
them all at once, and you shouldn't counter the same one all the time.
Yeah, absolutely not. And you definitely shouldn't counter them all the time. You shouldn't
Yeah.
be building all of your encounters like my
play
players
to
have this
win.
and this and this. It's okay for bad guys to know their powers, especially near the end of the campaign. If you're near the end of the campaign and they're facing the big bad, big bad's like has all the information that he needs and he like has all that counterplay at the end that presents an interesting challenge, fine. But if they're going through like an army and you don't let them use Blizzard because some asshole out there's like, well, no,
Right.
actually, I have anti-Blizzard. You can't do that. You're an asshole. Let them kill
Yes.
1,000 guys
Yeah.
with Blizzard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although probably not 1,000 guys with Blizzard because I don't think that's big enough area for that. You'll kill hundreds.
I hate feeling OP, said no one ever. I don't think that's true, actually, Miguel. I think some people do not like feeling OP. I see
Yeah,
a lot
sure.
of horror threads about DMs who are bad at combat. Like, my DM doesn't challenge me. I feel like he's always holding punches back. And it's like, maybe your DM's just bad at balancing things. Maybe they're not actually pulling punches.
Maybe.
Well,
the
and
player is
also, like,
just an asshole.
for a lot of campaigns, people are averse enough to character death that the DM might want to pull their punches because they feel like a boring combat is better than accidentally killing a character.
Yeah, which is also a problem of itself.
Yeah. Well, and also, but that's a skill that needs developing as a DM, like rebalancing combat on the fly to ride that fine line from boring to TPK. Like,
Yeah.
well, because the
DMing
TPK
combat-
is boring in its own way.
Yeah, depending on the situation, like if you get TPK'd to like a bunch of rats, level 2, fuck. But yeah, if you're DM, if you're just fudging things to fudge things, stop it. Get some help.
Okay.
You
All
should
right, let's
All right.
let's move on.
Okay, we can move on to the next
What
thing,
the
which
fuck
is
that word?
it's Bloodtrocution.
What the fuck?
It's a lightning spell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it an obvious?
All right.
Zach, these are your spells.
Yeah. So we're gonna step away from the cold for a second.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit chilly.
My first spell is Earth Shell Burst. A 3rd level abjuration, druid, sorcerer, wizard, casting time 1 action, self, somatic, and material. Instantaneous, maybe arguably 1 round, but you'll see. Dust, debris, and earth around you collects and pulls towards you, creating a shell around you. Every creature you choose within 15 feet of you must make a strength saving throw. On a failed save, a target is pulled in and stuck to the shell, having their movement speed reduced to 0. The shell created around you protects you from all damage until broken. The shell has 50 hit points and an AC equal to your spell save. At the start of your next turn, the shell bursts open. Any creatures within 15 feet of you must make a dexterity saving throw. On a failed save, the target takes 2d8 force damage or half as much on a successful one. This effect occurs unless the shell loses all of its hit points. Creatures that are stuck in the shell when it bursts do not make a dexterity saving throw. They instead take twice the amount of damage. A creature that is stuck can make a strength saving throw against your spell save DC as an action to release them. When you cast a spell using a spell slot of 4th level or higher, the hit points of the shell increase by 10 and the damage increases by 1d12 for every 2 slots above 3rd.
I fucking love this spell.
Interesting.
I love this spell, especially from its idea standpoint. There's a lot of fucking saves that are being made.
Yeah.
But I fucking love the idea behind this spell.
It is saves, but it's one save at the beginning, one save the next round, and saves just to get out of it, which is a lot of spells where you make a save and then you have to make saves to get out of it.
Well,
so
and
it's not
and the save to get out of it, it's on their turn and it's optional.
Yeah, and it's an action. It's causing them an action.
And the dex save is only if they made their initial strength save. So, like, it does sound like a lot of saves, but it's not as many as it sounds like at first glance, I think. It's probably, on average, going to be 2 saves per creature.
It's also not that far, too. It's only a 15.
This spell has so much counterplay for the opponents that I think you don't need that first dex save. I think if you're within 15 feet of this thing and it explodes, you should just take the full damage.
Sure.
I think that because, like, there's 2 ways of counteracting this. Just move away a little bit, which shouldn't be hard if you're stuck to it, or break it. And 50 points of damage,
it's not actually that much.
It's not
Although
that much.
The AC is your spell save.
That is a pretty high AC. But that AC is not super high at higher levels, but this is 3rd level. So it kind of counterbalances.
At best it's...
And it protects you from 50 damage. Like,
it does protect you from 50 damage, which is nice.
I didn't want to make its health too high, that's for sure.
But the thing is that it doesn't protect you from 50 damage. It protects you... It doesn't even protect you, I would even say. Because the damage really to this thing is to counterplay its damage. They could just wait out a round and then nothing happens and you're just at square one again.
Mm-hmm. It can absolutely be used as just you giving yourself a shell of a shield so that you're not focused for 1 turn even.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah, I think this is really cool. It has counterplay from your enemies, but it also allows interesting play patterns from you because you can pull in enemies while exempting your allies to get somebody out of range of a particularly pesky monster. Oh, this monster's got a sentinel-like ability. I can pull them in to free up the caster to get out unharmed.
I also think that the 50 hit points, that's a lot for sorcerers and wizards. Because especially by the time that they would get this spell at 5th level, that's arguably almost twice their hit points.
It's probably not quite twice, but it's definitely more than their hit points.
Yeah, it's probably maybe 5 to 10 under double, but
I don't know. I don't know if I'm too worried about that. I just think the fact that they could just walk away and just reset to square one after the round is over. It's a nice defense for a round, which in the grand scheme of things isn't that bad.
Well, and also it's sort of there's a big risk reward proposition because whoever gets stuck to oh wait, no, they get blown away. Never mind. I was gonna say whoever gets stuck to the shell is still next to you when it ends, but they aren't.
Yeah, they're pushing away.
Actually, no.
They would still be next to you.
Yeah, the explosion doesn't push them away at all. So yeah, that's the thing. You pull somebody in and deal damage to them, but then they're right next to you, and presumably mad about it.
Very mad about it.
I
But
am-
it's you're not having to use anything on the next turn when it bursts. So you still have like options to do something
Right, exactly.
else
So
to
the
them.
thing, you get that burst damage on them, and then you can drop a fireball if you want.
I don't know if it should be force damage. Actually, thinking about it,
I think it should be bludgeoning. That
Yeah,
was
it should be-
actually one thing that I thought of when you were originally reading this, and I just hadn't gotten around to saying it yet.
Yeah.
But I think it should be bludgeoning damage because like it's magical bludgeoning damage, so not many things resist that. But
That's fine. I just don't like giving spells bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage because they're spells and they feel like they should.
It
be
does
some sort of
always feel kind of
special
weird when you
damage,
do
but
that, but there's not
that's
like
fine.
there's not earth damage. Like
Yeah, I know.
It's not like air damage.
That's why I wanted to make earth damage.
yeah.
You can make it. You can make it like, I mean, you can make it any of the damage. Probably just piercing or bludgeoning, really. If it's like shrapnel, for instance. But yeah, force damage just seem a little bit odd. But like, I mean, whatever.
It's magic.
What-
You can do whatever you want.
One thing I would say is that I think the scaling might be a bit slow. I feel like this could just be like.
I didn't
Maybe
want to
every
over.
I think the 1d12 every level was fine. In fact, yeah, I think that's fine. The 10 per 2 levels, I think might be slow.
You have it.
Yeah, it's 10 every 2 levels.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
it's,
is.
it's 10 every 2 levels
I
and
think-
1d12 every 2 levels.
Yeah, I think it should
Um,
just be. I think it should just.
I
be-
think 10 and D12 for every level might be fine.
Yeah, I think
think
Every
it is
level
too.
instead of 2.
Because
Well,
even,
so my
because even,
thing.
like, even if you
Go ahead.
cast this at level 9, that's only 120 hit points, which, like, if you pull in 3 monsters, they could easily do 120 hit points of damage. Like, if all 3 of them use multi-attack on this, like,
Yeah, I'm okay with the. I wasn't sure how to balance the shell's hit points. I'm more worried about doing the damage like that because if you're getting pulled in and you're not able to get out of being stuck in the shell, you are guaranteed taking double the damage from at casting it at 9th level.
but even that's 18
18,
D12, which, okay, Meteor's
90.
Worm is 40 D6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I mean,
guess so.
Meteor Swarm is like it's even worse than Fireball in how overtuned it is for its level. But even a like less insane 9th level spell, like let me pull something up to compare.
Fuck, I don't have my PHB. Otherwise, I'd be. It's in my car.
You fool!
I left
How
my bag.
could you?
I left my bag in my car. I've been flying by Dropbox for the.
Like, let's look at Time Ravage, 10 D12 necrotic, and also a bunch of other shit.
Yeah, I guess that's fine then.
You could
Psychic
also just
Scream, 14 D6 and stunned. Like, actually, maybe that is too good of a scaling because a lot of these are single target. Even
Yeah, I imagine most of the time you're only hitting one person with this, but there is definitely the chance that you could hit multiple.
Well, also think about it. Also think about it too, like this: if a creature is stuck, one at 9th level, or not at 9th level. If you're upcasting this at 9th level, there are going to be creatures that will more than likely just be beating your fucking saves on like strength
Yeah,
attacks.
that's true. Yeah.
That's true.
So the series of events that would unfold for like them to take all that damage.
I mean, the series of events is they fail one strength save. That's it.
Also they don't deal enough damage to.
Yeah, they
break
fail their
the
strength save and don't deal 120 hit points of damage to it.
They don't,
Not even 120, 110. There's only 6 more levels.
and they also.
Oh, yeah, so it's not even 18 D12, it's 16 D12. Yeah, fuck them. It's fine.
Yeah,
I mean-
I think you could drop the deck save
Yeah, I'm cool
Yeah,
with
wait.
dropping the deck save.
Drop the
That,
deck
that
save.
makes sense to me. That makes sense.
and scale it per level, and I still think I would be okay.
Yeah.
Because I definitely don't think it's broken at 3rd level at that point. And by 9th level, I mean
Yeah,
I'm not gonna cast a spell at 9th level. I don't know about you.
I mean,
No,
I
I
think-
probably wouldn't be a spell I'm upcasting at 9th level.
I
think that's
could cast this at like maybe 6th level at best. I don't think I'd use any of my
Yeah.
higher level slots
Yeah.
than that.
I think if this spell would be the most problematic would be when you're at level 9 and you have access to 5th level spells and you decide to upcast this to 5th level. I think that would probably be arguably where it would be at its most problematic in terms of its hit point and damage. But even then, I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's enough damage. I think it'd be maybe a little bit too much health. think 80 hit points might be a little bit too much, but
I don't think the hit points are bad because, like, the
Yeah,
idea for the hit points is that you are going to have multiple people focusing this or using your entire
Yeah.
whatever to get rid of the shell,
Yeah.
or you're getting the fuck away from it.
You also need to keep in mind that as you get to higher levels, monster attack bonuses tend to be much higher than player attack bonuses.
Yeah.
And if there are multiple monsters, typically, if you're in an encounter with multiple monsters, their attack bonuses will be closer to the players. But that also means there will be more attacks against it, so there's more chances of them hitting. And the way that save DCs are calculated is directly in line with what the expected AC of the players is supposed to be, or what the monster's supposed to be. So, like, at every level, an 8 on a monster's attack roll is probably going to hit this thing. So, like, the AC, while it scales, and it's a good scaling, it's not making it, like, super hard to hit any level. The most a player can get this DC to get, typically, is going to be 20. And that's if they get a +2 ability score bonus above 20. Otherwise, their max DC is 19. And at max level, like, hitting a 19 for a monster is super easy. Lots of monsters have, like, +13 bonuses and higher. Like, dragons, for instance, like, they have a +17 bonus to their attack. And they're probably making their strength save anyway.
Yeah.
Dragons. So I don't think there's any issue with the scaling, it being area level, even with the dex save taken away.
Dope.
And otherwise, I think this is a cool thing. I like the idea of it being like a defense spell that turns into an offense spell. That's sort of a reclusion from everything that's going on. And if you have a good bonus action while you're in there, you can utilize it for your next turn, which would be nice.
Yeah. Fuck
Dope.
yeah.
Awesome. I'm gonna move on then.
Nice.
To Bloodtrocution.
Bloodtrocution. Seeing the rest of the spells throughout this, I think I might change the spell level on this. But for right now, 7th level Evocation, Cleric, Sorcerer, Warlock, Wizard. Casting time 1 action, range, self, components, VSM. Duration 1 minute, no con. You begin to feel electricity flowing through your veins. For the next minute, every time you take damage, you take an extra 1d6 lightning damage, and you gain 1 charge as you feel your blood boil with electric energy. As an action, you can expel this built-up electric energy, ending the spell. Any creature you choose within 60 feet of you makes a dexterity saving throw. On a failed save, the target takes XD12 lightning damage, where X is equal to the number of charges you have, or takes half as much on a success.
Oh, you and your variable damage.
I don't think you need to be taking extra lightning damage as you build up charges with this, because like I think it's slow enough with like the fact that you have to be putting yourself in danger and taking damage to utilize this. I think that the buildup is slow enough that you don't need to be dealing extra damage to yourself to make this work.
now
I originally had it at 1d4, and then I upped it to 1d6.
I do think that it's cool. It's really cool. And at D4, it might be low enough that it doesn't really actually matter. But I don't think it's necessary for how the spell's going to like how it's going to actually play.
Mm-hmm.
I think one issue that jumps out to me with this is if you are taking very minute increments of damage.
That's
like,
what I was gonna say. You could literally be the sorcerer and then turn to the cleric like, hit me, and they get punched you for 1 damage each hit, and you get a D12 to your damage at the end of the spell.
Okay, but then the cleric is spending their action every turn hitting you to build this
right,
up.
but this would be a great spell to prep a combat going into.
Yes, just imagine like you have like the fighter of your group just punching the shit out of you, or the monk of your group. Maybe not the monk, but
monk is still
to
fine because you can choose to only do the 1 damage.
Yeah, that's true. And like
even then, like I think that if the party knows that they're going to be in combat 1 minute from now, but they aren't in combat yet, and they have the full minute to prep, I think that 1 insane Nova Blast on a single creature that gets a dex save is fine, especially since you had to be pummeling your Warlock to get it to happen.
It's
okay. If you're that worried about it, give it a cap. cap it at 12. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't want to cap it, but you could totally cap
You don't even
it.
have to cap it. You could just give it a minimum
Yeah.
damage to take for it to get a charge.
Oh,
Yeah, like
If
minimum,
you-
that's my take.
minimum of 5. Like I think a minimum
Yeah.
of 5 at this point is fine, because then that's when you have to like really start weighing out the costs.
the thing is, you're probably even going to be taking 5 damage from your party's unarmed strikes because they've got probably a +4 in their attack bonus. Like,
Yeah, but not all of them.
What if I just made it a D4?
Then that I feel like would be undertuned, unfortunately. No, I mean, I think Adam has a point in that, like, if you have the time to prep that, like, why not?
yeah.
Like,
This would
this definitely is not a spell
Well,
that would
on the other
necessarily be a
hand-
good thing.
Sorry,
in
what were you saying,
combat.
Sean?
I
Right,
don't think
yeah.
this would necessarily be a good thing in combat.
And on the
to
other
cast
hand,
in combat, I mean.
the D6 lightning damage does help discourage cheesing. Like,
Yeah.
because if you're taking an extra D6 lightning damage every time the monk punches you, you're not going to want to cheese this very much. But on the other hand, like Shawn said, since this is going to be tough to get off in combat as a like big spell, maybe cheesing is the only way that we're going to use this. I don't know. I think that if you keep the lightning damage, you should reduce it to a D4. And if you don't keep the lightning damage, either a minimum damage threshold to gain a charge, or just cap the number of D12s at some number.
I do like the idea, however, of one of the party member has been captured, and they're alone in their prison cell, and they're able to, I don't know, like just bite down on their like lip hard enough, like for a minute, to just cause a shit ton of blood like to come on out, and then, or like they know like that someone's gonna be there, and then they just fucking disintegrate a shit ton of people while like imprisoned, basically. Shawn is raising his hand.
What if it is that it's not a roll? You don't get more dice, and maybe this is completely against what you want to do, Zach, because you just want to stack as many dice to roll as possible. But if you made it every time you take damage, you get as many charge equal to the amount of damage you take plus your spellcasting modifier. Then you would net more damage than you take when you explode. When you explode, it's just a flat number, and they save for half or they get it all. That way, you don't have to like scale like, okay, D12s are high because they're taking a lot of damage, but it's also maybe too high if they're taking a low amount of damage. Whereas if you have a flat number, you can it lets you control how much feedback they get, but still gives them a benefit on top of being hit instead of it just being like just you give what you took. You still give more than what you took.
My concern with accumulating X plus your spellcasting mod with each hit is that makes the cheesing even worse. Like if you're cheesing unarmed strikes to get the charges built up,
You would then be
every
taking that
hit
much damage,
is
so.
How's that worse? If your monk is hitting you with D10s and you're collecting
but they
D12s,
can choose for it to.
Right, exactly. They can choose for it to be less, but you're getting D12 damage every time.
No, but I'm saying if you're getting your charisma modifier or whatever, if you're getting your spellcasting modifier on every one of those hits, like that stacks up very quickly.
So
it does.
You're saying that the damage that you take, you get as like that's charged up in you now, plus your spellcasting. That's what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying, just because like I want the spell to be, and as it's designed, I think that's clear that you want to be able to do more damage than you take. Well, actually, as it is, if you were fighting an enemy, you'd probably be doing less damage than what you took. Even without the lightning damage, your enemy at a high level is probably doing more than 1d12's worth of damage per hit. I was just thinking spellcasting modifier just because it's a scalable thing that can increase every time you get hit. Or it adds more value than what you take. That way the spell's actually worth it in the end.
What if instead of proccing on every hit, what if it was at the start of your turn, if you've taken damage since your last turn, gain 1 charge? then you can scale it more for each charge, but you
And
don't need to worry about the
cheesing is
cheesing
harder.
because you can only get a maximum of 1
Yeah.
charge per turn.
What would be a suitable damage for like each charge that you would get at that point?
I like
Well, I
12.
mean, yeah, honestly, I would compare with Delayed Blast Fireball. Because that one is another spell that powers up the longer you can hold off without setting it off. 2d12 sounds right at first blush, but I'd compare to Delayed Blast Fireball because I think you could slightly overtune compared to Delayed Blast Fireball just because that hits an area and it doesn't require you to take damage to charge it up.
I do know that Delayed Blast Fireball, it starts at 12d6.
Okay, and how much does it increase every turn? 1d6 for every turn that you don't set it off.
Right.
So,
and you are also concentrating on it. So I believe once your concentration, I think if your concentration ends,
Yeah.
when the spell ends either because your concentration is broken or because you decide to end it. So that's
Yeah.
And that's when it goes off. Yeah, this is supposed to be like you're trying to withstand as long as you can to use this so that it charges up.
Yeah.
That's why it's not con, anyways. I like that. If you guys think that 2d12 is enough for each charge, that's a max of 10.
I think it is.
charges.
If you're one of these classes and you're putting
20
yourself into taking
D12.
damage, I think that's probably worth it.
That's the thing. I think
can-
Cleric
yeah.
is the only one here that can really take hits like that. And
Yeah.
Cleric is kind of starved for big damage options anyways, so I think that's fine.
It
Yeah,
does technically make it.
tank build, Claire.
It does technically make it not any worse as a cheesable option. Like it doesn't fix the cheesing aspect to do it that way, unfortunately.
Well, but it does cap how much you can cheese it. Because
it
at
does.
most,
It does.
you can only ever get 10 charges out of this. Actually,
Yeah.
technically 9, the way we've worded it.
Yeah, but you'd only ever have to get hit once per round to get a whole 2d12.
So
Right.
that would be 18d12 at essentially if you have a minute of prep time and you
Yeah.
have somebody punch.
Best case scenario for this is 18d12, which compared to the 22d6 of Delayed Blast Fireball, I think is fine.
Yeah.
Especially because this is single target.
It's single target, and I also like this would probably be too. It's probably too high of a level because it depends on you taking damage.
Yeah.
Whereas Delayed Blast Fireball is just free as long as you don't get fucked up by something. So maybe this would be 6th level. I probably wouldn't want to go too low.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go any
cheesable.
lower than that, but I think 6th level might be feasible.
I
like the spell a lot. I think it's an awesome idea. You come up with a lot of ideas that are like difficult to balance.
Yeah.
Like they've got a lot of knobs, but they are like wildly swingy knobs. Like they don't have.
I love
clickers behind
wildly
them.
swinging.
They just go all the way from negative to positive. It's like nowhere in the middle. It's just whoo.
I love random, dude. I like those changes. I think that makes it more balanced than it is for sure.
I love how often you are willing to try to tweak and push new like things into your spells. It's
Oh yeah, you come up with some like absolutely wild shit. I love it.
Which is amazing.
Like Life Beam. Life Beam still like lives in my head rent free. I am still thinking about that spell, trying to get it to
you
work.
You weren't on that episode, Justin. That's why
I wasn't on the episode. God damn it!
I'm still trying to think if there's any way of doing this without cheesing it, but I'm gonna spend too much time thinking about that on the podcast if I try that.
Yeah, we can move on.
Yeah. All right, we got Adam's Quartet.
Jesus fuck.
Yo, this one targets 3 self. All right, go ahead, Adam.
Okay, so we're gonna start with Promise of Fire. I'm gonna read them left to right so that we don't need to scroll as many times. Promise of Fire, 2nd level evocation, available to druids, paladins, rangers, and warlocks. Casting time, 1 bonus action, range of self, verbal component, duration, concentration up to a minute. You utter a binding word that grants you some of the strength of fire. For the duration, you gain the following benefits. Whenever you make an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw using your strength modifier, you can roll a d4 and add it to the roll. Whenever you hit a creature with a weapon attack on your turn, the attack deals an extra 1d4 fire damage. As a bonus action on your turn, you can lash out with a Gout of Flame. Each creature in a 10-foot line must make a dexterity saving throw, taking 2d6 fire damage on a failure or half as much on a success. The scaling, I have no fucking clue about. Like, I've just put random numbers in here, essentially, so I'll ignore that for now. Promise of Wind, second level evocation, Druid, Paladin, Ranger, Warlock. Casting time bonus action, range self, verbal components, duration, concentration up to a minute. They all have all the same stuff for that. You utter a binding word that grants you some of the strength of wind. For the duration, you gain the following benefits. Whenever you make an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw using your dexterity modifier, you can roll a d4 and add it to the roll. Your speed increases by 10 feet. As a bonus action on each of your turns, you can create a gust of wind in a 10-foot cone originating from you. Each creature in the cone must make a strength saving throw. On a failure, the creature is pushed backwards 10 feet. And then Promise of Stone. You utter a binding word that grants you some of the strength of stone. For the duration, you gain the following benefits. Whenever you make an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw using your Constitution modifier, you can roll a d4 and add it to the roll. You gain a number of temporary hit points equal to twice your level. As a bonus action on each of your turns, you can cause the earth beneath your feet to crack and shake. The ground in a 10-foot radius circle around you is difficult terrain until the beginning of your next turn, and each creature in the area must make a dexterity saving throw. On a failure, the creature is knocked prone. And Promise of Water. You utter a binding word that grants you some of the strength of water. For the duration, you gain the following benefits. Whenever you make an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw using your Wisdom modifier, you can roll a d4 and add it to the roll. Once per turn, when you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can have another creature you can see within 30 feet of you regain 1d4 hit points. As a bonus action on your turn, you can attempt to grapple a creature with Binding Water. Choose a creature within 10 feet of you and make an ability check using your spellcasting ability, contested by an athletics or acrobatics check from the creature. On a success, the creature is grappled.
All right.
So this is really cool.
I love
These are dope.
I love this theme. My first inclination should be higher levels.
Yeah, that's my first
Promise
thing,
of Fire.
I think third level.
Yeah,
I think probably higher. I think fourth level.
Promise of Fire.
Promise of
Okay.
Fire.
The
Burning
bonus action.
Hands is second level, and it's 3d6 fire damage once. This is 2d6 fire damage in a 10-foot line every turn as a bonus action, which allows you to do either an attack or a spell as your action every turn on top of it, which I think is too much. Especially if you do the attacks, you get an additional 1d4 damage on all of those attacks. Or
I think that
yeah,
upping
all
these
those
to third, I think upping them to third level makes sense. I was on the fence between second and third. I went with second just because it is weaker than comparable spells. It's weaker than Dragon's Breath. It's weaker than Elemental Weapon, but it is doing both of them. So I guess leveling it up
Yeah.
would make sense.
Yeah,
That's all bonus action, which I think is pretty big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The fact that it's a bonus action is a lot of extra damage for a bonus action.
Because you could, as a druid, for instance, druid or warlock, you can do actually all of these because of the fighting styles. You could do bonus action cantrip, and it's still a very valuable term with this on it.
Yeah.
Especially druid, because you can do. Oh no, never mind. That's not how that works.
I
mean,
do
druid
love
could-
giving more bonus action things though.
Yeah, I do. I do like that a lot.
Go ahead,
A
Justin.
base druid could cast the spell and then wild shape.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's
Yeah.
like that. Like regardless of this only can't really work with the moon druid. So I mean, props there. But
Well, and Moon Druid can still wild shape as an action, can't they?
Yeah, they can do both.
I thought that it changes them to a bonus
No.
action.
No, it
No.
lets you do
It
it as a
probably
bonus
says
action. You
can.
can still do it as an action, though.
Oh, okay. Well
Yeah.
then,
Yeah,
Never
it would
mind.
have to say you change into your wild shape as a bonus action instead of an action, which would be a weird phrasing.
Yeah.
I think these are all cool. I don't know how balanced they are to each other necessarily. I do like the D4 to the various checks.
that's pretty cool.
But like for instance, I don't know how
Wind
that
feels
will-
like the weakest.
I say wind feels like the weakest for sure.
The speed increase is nice, but
I
The
think
speed increase is nice and the pushing's nice, but like
and the dex mod attack rolls.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's a bonus to dex saves too.
I think Promise
Yeah.
of Fire and Promise of Stone should be bumped up to third level, while Promise of Wind and Water should stay at second.
that would annoy me to no end, but the investors did it, so I guess it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they?
Fire.
I'm pretty sure. Oh no,
definitely
yours
needs
did.
to be
I
Your
and
higher.
shadows
Shadow
and
Pictures
light
did that, yeah. And for mine, only light and shadow were higher level.
Yeah.
The thing is, I'd be totally fine with tuning down fire a bit. Like maybe
Yeah.
tune down the damage on the bonus action to like either 1d6 or 2d4.
Or you could just make it single target, honestly.
Yeah.
But then it kind of like the weapon attacks are already single target, so like it kind of double dips on single target.
Well,
damage.
and it's only a 10-foot line.
Yeah, yeah.
It's basically single target anyways.
Yeah.
It is only technically an area of effect.
The only thing that concerns me about it is that it's a bonus action, so you can do your attacks and that and get that extra damage.
Yeah,
Maybe take down that bonus action to 1d6 damage then.
Crusader's
What
Mantle
is it
for
to be okay?
reference.
1d6 is probably okay. That's like as good as a cantrip.
How would you recommend tuning down Promise of Stone?
Where are you
Maybe,
seeing
maybe
that
make
it's
it only a
showing
5-foot radius instead of 10?
I don't think Promise of Stone is that bad, personally.
I don't think it's bad at all.
Okay, Justin
I-
called that one out as needing to be 3rd level, so.
I think because for me, it's the number of temporary hit points that you get.
I don't think it's that much.
Let's think, like, let's say if you get this spell at 3rd level, oh no, 6 temp HP?
I guess
I
I'm
do
think
think
I'm
the
concerned about it
temporary hit
with
points
Fire.
scales weirdly, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
By,
Well,
by
that's
the
the
time
thing,
you hit 20,
like I said, the
40 is a lot.
scaling is garbage on all of these, but I was just like, I want all 3 effects to scale for all 4 spells, and so I had to come up with 12 different scaling mechanisms.
oh wait, no,
Yeah.
water scale is the weirdest. I lied.
I haven't checked out the
At higher
scale.
levels, I have not read the higher
Oh,
higher
right,
level.
because it gives you proficiency and then expertise on the
Yeah,
grapple
it's very
check.
strange.
But for Promise of Stone, when you upcast it, you are getting even more temp HP.
Right, but only for every 3 slot
Yeah, but
levels.
that's
So
true about a lot of other temporary hit
every
point spells.
that's every
slot levels.
3 slot
My
levels,
bad.
Justin.
I didn't see that. I was worried that like you could fucking like make this into be like, oh yeah, if you cast this at 5th level, you are getting 5 times the amount of temp.
No,
hit
if you cast at 5th level, you only get 3 times your level in temp HP.
Okay.
I would personally, instead of it being hit points per level, I'd probably just make it like 3 times the slot level used. That way it scales with slot level, which is more in line with how spells work. There's some spells that like reference strange things like level, but I think like getting a like because the way it is now, it scales twice sort of when you cast at higher levels because it scales with your level, but you also get higher level spells because you're a higher level. So
Sure.
like it kind of double scales in a way.
I guess, yeah.
Because like it starts off at 6, which is fine, but then when you're 20th level, you cast it at 2nd level. Now suddenly it's 40, which is a lot better. But it's the same slot level, which is kind of strange.
That's a lot for a
So-
second level.
So I went to Crusader's Mantle as one of my first kind of innate reactions to this spell because of all the fucking D4s. And
Oh, that's another thing. I'm not actually certain that I should let the D4 bonus scale at all. Like,
Yeah, I don't think you should.
yeah,
Probably not.
I don't think I should either. I wrote it down, and I wrote down the scaling, and then I scaled it back, and then I scaled it back again, and then I was like, maybe it just doesn't need to scale. But at that point, I had run out of time. So
Yeah, the way that Bounded actually works, a D4 should be about as effective at every level.
yeah, that's the thing.
I
I
think it's
thought
fine.
about buffing it to D6 at like 6th level, but like, I don't know. I don't think it's really necessary to scale it. A D4 is always good. Like,
Yeah.
Bless is always good. Like,
and Crusader's Mantle, which is a paladin spell. Holy power radiates from you in an aura within a 30-foot radius. Until the spell ends, the aura moves with you, centered on you, and while in the aura, each non-hostile creature in the aura, including you, deals an extra 1d4 radiant damage with a weapon attack. So
yeah, but that affects multiple creatures.
Right.
It's also a better
like,
damage type.
Elemental Weapon does a similar thing, but you get to choose the damage type, and it gives your weapon a +1. That's also 3rd level. Like,
and the big thing is that it lasts for an hour. That's the big
right?
thing.
Yeah, Elemental Weapon lasts for an hour. That's the thing. Like this is Promise of Fire is doing a lot of things, but it's doing them all worse than other spells at this
Yeah.
level can do them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
Problem-
my only concern
yeah.
with it is bonus action.
I think that if we take it down to 1d6 for the bonus action,
Yeah, I'm
then
less
it's probably fine.
Because then at higher levels, it's not as big a concern unless you're casting it at a higher level.
Well, and even if you
Well-
are casting it at a higher level, like damage scaling does not really work that well.
I don't know. So here's the thing. I think that Promise of Fire, you're only casting the spell if you use Strength to attack. You're probably a Paladin. You're
True.
probably a Ranger. You're probably not... You could be a Warlock and do it. No, because you had to specifically be using your Strength modifier.
I mean, Hexblade. Hexblade could
Yeah,
be
but
using
Hexblade
it.
replaces Strength with Charisma,
Yeah.
so it wouldn't actually work with the spell.
Only that there's an invocation that does that, but the Hexblade doesn't do it on its own, right?
No, the Hexblade does it on his own.
Yeah, Hexblade does.
I mean, that it's still useful to use though on people that even aren't using strength because you still get the damage on your weapon attack and you still get that as a bonus action. You're just
Yeah.
also getting a D4 to strength stuff.
I'm just saying, when you're making your character build and you're choosing one of these spells, you're probably going to choose the one that's best for yours. Fire is probably the most valuable if it's not for the ability score that you want it for. It happens
Yeah.
to, but it's super good if it's the ability score that you use to attack
Yeah.
because it's Bane on everything that matters. Well, not everything that matters for you. Your attack rolls are probably the best thing. Your ability checks are probably good too. Strength's good in combat for ability checks for grappling, but it's better than magical weapon or elemental weapon for a strength user because a D4 bonus on your attack rolls is better than a +1 bonus.
Yeah, that's
well,
true.
Elemental
you don't
weapon
get
is a D4.
It's not a D4 to the attack roll, only the damage. It's a +1
Only
to the
the-
attack roll.
Yeah.
But a D4 to attack roll is much better than a +1 to the attack roll.
What if I limit the fire damage to once per turn?
If you limit the fire damage to once per turn,
That helps.
it helps. I think the bonus action is too strong just because it compares to Burning Hands. Because Burning Hands second level is 3d6 once, and this is potentially at a normal
Well,
combat.
but Burning
it's
Hands,
3d6.
Burning Hands is a 15-foot cone, though.
What if you
Yes.
make it similar to the other ones where it's like a 10-foot cone that the heat that you've done makes them have disadvantage against you or something like that instead of making it a damaging thing.
Yeah, I think.
I feel like the
kinda
fact
cool.
that it's a damaging thing on a bonus action that you could do every round for a minute, even if it is con, is what's getting to me.
each-
It
I mean,
is
and
the
then
only-
lowering their damage just feels like it takes away from what you're trying to do with it.
Sure. That's the thing.
It
Honestly,
is-
my original draft for it was an intimidation thing, but I just couldn't get the flavor to work.
Yeah.
But honestly, sweltering heat, giving people disadvantage on attacking you, I think is actually a cooler ability than the Gout of Flame. So
I agree.
I like that way better.
Also,
do you still think we should limit the fire damage on the attacks to once per
I think
turn
that's-
if we do that?
No.
I think that's.
I
that's
think you
fine.
should. Because again, if we're a strength user, this is more often than not better than elemental weapon, a third level spell.
Right. Well,
Other than
except
the-
for the
other
fact that you
than
don't
the
get to
fact-
choose the damage type.
Yeah, that's true, but
I will
And
also.
it also-
Fire
also
is
isn't-
one of the most resisted types.
it also isn't one. It also doesn't make your magic it doesn't make your weapon magical like elemental weapon. But
Yes.
a D4 to your attack rolls is huge.
And your damage.
Though Bane
But
is
also
first level,
element-
it targets multiple things.
And elemental weapon is an hour, where this is only a minute.
How often does Hunter's Mark proc on something?
Every time you hit.
Just every
Yeah,
time you hit.
Same thing with
I
Hex.
think it's fine then.
As-
Well, but Hunter's Mark doesn't
Yeah.
give you a D4 to your attack rolls.
Yeah, that's true. But it gives
Oh.
you an extra D6 or D8.
It's a D6.
D6 to damage.
But
so
a D4 to your attack roll gives you more damage than a D6 on your damage rolls does on average.
Yeah,
Um,
because
because
a
hitting
D4
more often will allow you
yeah.
to do more damage over more
a
time.
D4 on your attack rolls will get you about 10% more hits.
But Hunter's Mark also lasts way longer.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
That's the thing. I don't think it's. I think it's iffy whether or not we should limit it to once per turn or not.
I
Like,
think if the bonus action turns into a non-damaging effect, it's better. I think
Yeah,
it
I
might,
think-
it might be
I totally think
fine.
it's fine. I totally think we should do that. I think that we should switch the bonus action effect to a creature of your choice within 10 feet of you has disadvantage on attacks against you until the beginning of your next turn.
Yeah.
Like,
on a
does-
save. Yeah.
or even
like a con save would be good for that, I think.
I
I
also
would even
think-
say just the next attack roll they make until the start of your next turn.
No, I think just give him disadvantage on attacks against you. Make it similar to like the effects of the other things, like the other promises that are here.
Yeah, I don't think that's bad.
What do you guys think of like the theme of the cycle, though, of like saying a word that like links you to the element?
I think that's
cool.
really cool.
You've
Yeah, I
definitely come up-
fucking love the theme here.
yeah, you've definitely come up with a great like all around like thematic theme. I've been trying to think of like should this go on like
Honestly,
another class, and I think the 4 classes you have here are perfect for it.
I just think that like in general, some of these need to be tweaked a little bit, like numbers wise. And I think if you just use Promise of Wind to like tweak them around what the power level of that, because I think Promise of Wind is a really good one. I haven't looked at the at higher levels at all. I'll say
You shouldn't. You shouldn't.
but I think if you tweak them similar to Promise of Wind, because I think that one's really, really good for what it is.
What were you gonna say, Shawn?
All right, I think that I definitely don't think you shouldn't scale the D4s.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
scaling the second and third effects of each of them is a good idea. I think generally you could just scale the second effect naturally, as you would think, and then scale the second effect based on the area they affect, and that should be okay. Because the water one, also I think the water one should be, I don't think it should be a spellcasting ability check next to, because that's going to fail a lot more often than the other ones, I think. Just because of how high monster strengths and dexterities can get.
Yeah.
What I would suggest maybe is making it a spellcasting ability check against their strength or dex scores. Perhaps could be better.
My original wording of it was a ranged spell attack.
That also could be fine. I mean, it's just a grapple condition. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And some
I
monsters
think
are
that
immune to grapple anyway.
I think that I like it best as a ranged spell attack.
I think it's
Yeah.
probably the best call.
That makes sense.
Okay.
And then like
cool.
you can just scale the range in each of those effects, and then for the middle ability, scale them naturally. Promise of Wind plus 5 feet. The fire damage, probably scale the weapon die. That one's the weirdest one to scale. And then Promise of Stone. I think if it's just temporary hit points based on the spell level, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And then for Promise of Water, I think increasing the die for the healing, all of those
Okay.
are perfectly fine. And I think
Hell
these
yeah.
are all really, I think they're all really cool and flavorful. And I like the added bonus action to each of them. I think that's really
Hell
cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Fucking
think
love that.
More bonus actions.
More bonus actions is
I
amazing.
think-
I know Justin already said that he thinks that the class list on these is
I
fine.
was gonna add. I think
Okay.
maybe Bard should be in it.
I was
because
gonna ask about Bard and Sorcerer in particular. Bard and Sorcerer were on my list as possibilities.
Bard because you said like you pretty much speak it into existence, and
Right.
and although
I agree with Bard.
real-
I agree with
although
Bard.
realistically, a Bard will probably not pick these spells up.
A swords bard might want Promise of Wind or Promise of Fire.
Can I use
Promise of
these?
Stone.
I think like
Let me use these in Sean's next
Well, and that's the
campaign.
thing. Promise of Stone gives you a D4 on your concentration checks.
Yeah.
Never mind.
well,
Give it to
your
Bard.
concentration. You're concentrating on this spell.
Well, right, but like, so what of it? I also I was trying my original thought for this. I was trying to come up with one for each ability score, but I was having trouble coming up with one for intelligence and charisma. So if you guys have
Mhm.
ideas for
Those
what
seem
element
like-
you
Shadow for intelligence and light for charisma, or vice versa. Honestly, both those could work for either. To be real,
Yeah.
I was thinking of lightning for intelligence, but I couldn't land on one I was happy with for charisma.
You could
if
go
you
with
want to do
acid.
lightning, yeah, that seems a little bit odd.
I think
Honestly, I would say acid for intelligence and lightning for charisma. I think lightning has a very obviously thunderous presence,
Mhm.
and acid I think says a lot about I think acid's
Well,
really
wait.
attached to
Alchemical.
alchemical
yeah.
stuff and
well, wait.
chemistry and stuff.
What if it was thunder for charisma and lightning for
No,
intelligence?
I mean, I don't hate that.
I
I
hate
don't
it.
that either.
What do you mean you hate it? You
Thunder
come-
and lightning are the same thing.
They are not the same thing.
They come hand in hand. You don't separate them.
You
If you do
absolutely
separate
separate them.
You separate them in their damage type, Zach.
This is
Promise of-
why
promise of
Pathfinder calls it
lightning,
sonic
right.
damage, so you don't have
They
that.
should not be
Okay,
different
yeah,
damages.
actually, I like that. Promise of lightning and promise of thunder. I'm gonna come up with the two of those
Damn
off
it.
stream.
Hell yeah.
Go.
So yeah, I like that a lot.
I'd be interested to see
I-
how you do the
I
bonus.
no
actions for
longer
those.
like these at all.
I like I like coming up with cycles like this. Like I loved the invocations, and these kind of feel like mini invocations to me. Like,
Yeah. Do
Investitures.
you mean investitures?
oh yeah, fucking investitures. That's what I
It's
meant.
like we haven't done invocations. We haven't even done investitures. Those are all separate.
Fuck,
I love
investitures.
that you have different classes for these than like the ones that we all came up with. Like that wizard and sorcerer aren't included, and that it's paladin and
I
ranger
mean, I feel
and
like
stuff like that.
wizard
I
and
like that a
sorcerer
lot.
could be included. I don't
No.
think that there's a good reason
Fucking
why
leave
they
them off of this.
shouldn't have them. But like, these are the classes that I like could really see using them. Like,
These are strange to me for wizard. I can see them for sorcerer, but wizard's a little bit strange. It's one of the few things where I'm like, this could go on like most class lists, but not wizard.
Yeah,
I think these could.
I almost
Yeah.
think cleric.
I don't think cleric. This would
I'm not feeling cleric
What?
personally,
Why are you guys not feeling cleric? I'm just like curious.
so
just because this feels like the way I'm picturing this is less of a connection to the divine and more of a connection to the arcane weave. We got
Fair.
someone in the chat. Promise of meat, Gideon Spegballs. Someone's on a spaghetti train with us. We should have made pasta spells, damn it.
pasta spells.
I really hope you did not.
Wait,
just
we were talking
add
about that before we even started the stream.
Yeah.
or- well, not even necessarily with that because that doesn't really
Pasta
work
stuff.
with a paladin. But I think because paladins
For the paladin, I was viewing this as sort of a like
It's binding.
a connection to the elements that like improves the self. Like
Yeah.
the paladin is reaching out to the elements to empower themselves,
Yeah.
and like that's the sort of thing that I see paladins do. Like for me, the class fantasy of paladin
Yeah.
very much revolves around like self improvement, and
Yeah.
so like I thought that the idea of like a paladin like
Noctis.
drawing his weapon and like speaking a single word and then becoming empowered by the wind, like that's a really cool image to me, and
I
like
think that is cool.
I could definitely see it working for a cleric, but it just doesn't feel like it fits the default cleric fantasy to me.
I
Yeah,
think the
these-
fact that a paladin's whole thing is about making oaths, and this is about binding yourself to the elements.
Yeah.
I think that
The
fits.
original name for
Yeah.
these was Oath of Axe, so it was like Oath of Fire, Oath of Water, and I was like, actually, Promise is even better here because then I'm not like overloading the word
Yeah.
oath with meaning.
Yeah, I like promise.
That's fair.
Do we want to go on to other spells? The ones that I have put I know were kind of sweet, are short and sweet. Pretty simple effects.
I think for your health, we probably shouldn't
We can save those
What?
for another week.
What do you
we
mean
could
for
say-
my health?
because you got your booster shot, man.
What?
Your
I'm
minds
not. I'm the one who wants to talk about them. Why are you trying to do this for my betterment? First of all, I don't even feel bad right now. It was gone.
Your
It happened
mind-
for like 30 minutes.
Your mind isn't in its.
I would
its
like
right
to,
place.
because there's only 4 spells left, and we're not making an episode out of 4 spells.
Okay, sure. Well,
Alright.
but if I come up with Promise of Lightning and Promise of Thunder, that's 6 right there.
Oh.
he's gonna.
we only got through 11, 12.
Only 11. Yeah, we can do 4 more.
Mine are very short. I don't know about Zach's, but mine's really short.
Mine's short, but maybe controversial.
maybe
Let's just
All right.
we'll look at them real quick.
Yeah,
Rapid
yeah.
All right.
fire.
Not as
these
much-
are all pretty. They're all pretty quick and simple. The first one's pretty self-explanatory. It's called Tremorsense. It's an
We
earth
get
spell.
Tremorsense.
All right, I already know this. Next one.
Yep,
All right, yeah, I mean, I'm willing to move on. It's 3rd level. It's 8 hours.
That seems
I guess
fine.
the same thing as Dark Vision. I think 3rd level spell 8 hours.
Well, Dark Vision is 2nd level. I made this 3rd level because Tremorsense is better than Dark Vision.
Better than Dark
in,
Vision.
in
That's
a lot of
dope.
ways. Anyway.
I love it.
Yep.
Awesome.
Good.
All right,
Perfect.
Corrosive Touch. I thought maybe this should be a 1st level acid spell that's scalable and interesting.
Oh, yeah.
1st level Conjuration, Artificer, Druid, Sorcerer, Warlock, Wizard. 1 action, Touch, Verbal Somatic, Instantaneous. The pores of your hand drip a potent acid that can corrode iron. Make a melee spell attack against a creature or object. On a hit, the target takes 2d8 acid damage. Objects made of metal take twice as much damage, and if you hit a creature wearing metal armor, attack rolls against the creature have advantage until the end of your next turn. Higher levels, 1d8 per level.
Nice. I think that's sick. I like the
Nice.
like I like the analogy to Shocking Grasp, where it's like it has a
Mhm.
special effect on hitting metal armor. This is just nice. For a while I had a goal of making sure that every damage type was represented at every spell level with both AoE and single target damage. And this is definitely like this is going on my list of like, all right, this is my first level single target acid damage spell. This is awesome.
Yeah, these are making me think, why do these not already exist?
Yeah, it's strange that there's no Tremorsense or Blind Sight spells.
Yeah.
Very strange.
All
Last one. Oh, Justin?
I was gonna say, let's go.
Oh, okay. All right, last one. Draft Strike.
Hate
First
it.
level. Okay, well, let's move on. No. First level evocation, Archer, Druid, Paladin, Ranger, Wizard. Cast time 1 action. Range touch. Components verbal somatic. Duration 1 hour. You empower a creature you touch with the ability to manipulate the wind with their weapons. When an empowered creature makes a melee weapon attack, they can target a creature within 60 feet of them. On a hit, the target takes only the bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage dealt by the attack.
Oh, interesting.
So
That's
no
interesting.
Modifier.
Yeah.
Well, wait, no.
Well,
you
no,
still
the
have
modifier would still
It just-
apply, yeah.
Like if your weapon had fire damage on it, they
Yeah.
wouldn't take it. Like
Oh, I see.
yeah.
Your modifier
Ah!
is the damage of the weapon, yeah.
Weird. 60 feet's a long range.
Yeah, but it's a first level, like, it's just giving a melee person a ranged attack. It's basically like giving someone a crossbow.
I think it should be. I think it might warrant concentration.
I don't think so.
I don't think
No.
so.
Like, because the thing
Like,
is,
it's like giving
okay,
someone a
let's
crossbow.
that's the thing. Let's say you've got somebody who is good with like melee attacks and bad with ranged attacks. If you give them this spell, they are now almost as good with ranged attacks as they were with their melee attacks, and they're not in melee anymore.
Yeah.
So
think-
or
somebody
just with,
is
like,
still in melee. Like,
or with
I
just, like, some javelins.
I think.
Yeah.
I think my only issue was just thinking about extremely high level wizard that can just cast the spell infinitely.
What's wrong with that?
that's an
Alright.
awesome fantasy. Like that's
Alright, yeah.
that's so
No,
cool.
you're-
Like
you're
What-
right.
a
what does-
20th
what does
level
that-
wizard.
What does that break in your mind?
No, you are. Adam is right. That is a really good fantasy to just think, all right, we got a war going on, guys. What the fuck are we gonna do? And you're just like,
Yeah.
you
We
know,
just
Like
make
20th
it-
level
we're
wizard
gonna-
who empowers like their entire party
Yeah.
to be able to hit with hammers at range. Like that's so fucking cool.
Hey,
like
hey, yo,
But
you
even-
see
I
those
just think
guys
it's
over
too
there?
far.
Fuck them in particular. I think 60 feet's fine.
I think 30 feet
I don't know.
is...
This one
I
doesn't
think
sit with me well.
the problem is that I think 30 feet's useless.
Yeah.
That's the thing,
like-
because 30 feet, they're in walking range. Like
They're
Yeah.
in walking range, and if they're flying 30 feet away, sure, that's a problem. But most creatures that are flying are probably staying further away than 30 feet.
yeah.
If they have a ranged ability, obviously.
I think my thing with it is that, like, if you're melee, I don't like always having a cop out to be able to be used. Like, I feel like I want you to get like innovative instead of being able to just do something like this.
Every melee class can use ranged attacks they wanted. Every single one of them.
That's the thing. It's
Then
just a
bring a
matter of
ranged option to it. This just feels
but
weird.
it's just
like,
a matter of buying the right equipment. Because like if you're a barbarian, you just need to buy javelins. If you're a
Yeah.
rogue, you just need to have a bow on hand. Like
There is nothing stopping my paladin who's got a -1 to dex from picking up a fucking longbow and shooting it.
Or a javelin.
Or a javelin.
or a javelin, which would
Which
be
adds
the
their
better
strength.
option. Yeah.
yeah.
A javelin is lesser distance, to be fair.
Yeah.
I was comparing it more from the like longer distance.
Well, but I mean, this isn't hitting anybody 300 feet away like a longbow is.
That's true. This also only has about half the range that a javelin does. So
Well, a javelin's close range is 30
it's
feet.
30, yeah. But I think
So
I like this a lot. I think this is awesome.
monk got
No
got
way of
hot.
range.
No way of range.
Monk got no way of range.
Is the hot just
that's-
an extra word?
They got darts, yo.
Yeah, the monk has darts that they could use, and then there's the Sun Soul monk. This would give
They
the
can also
monk,
use a bow if they have the Kensai monk.
they can use a bow. I think they can
No,
use a bow.
monks don't get simple proficiencies.
No, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Kensai
monks don't have a ranged option.
Kensai monks can. They
That's
get a
what
ranged
Kensai- yeah,
weapon
they
that
can-
they can use.
They can
Kensei
use
monks
longbow,
can,
yeah.
and Sun Soul monks can, but other monks don't technically get a ranged option. That's
Yeah.
Ilwan is correct.
I don't know. This one sits weird with me, but I don't.
Although,
have a
honestly,
great argument
the
against it.
fantasy is even better if you cast this on a monk who is punching the air, and it causes bludgeoning damage 60 feet away. That is so anime. Like,
Thanks.
It is very anime.
I was gonna say thanks. I just thought of Mike Guy fighting fucking Madara. Literally just punches the air.
Yep. That's kind of the thing I was thinking about.
fuck yeah. All right, we got 3 more.
I can
Or do we only have
feel
one
what
more?
Zach's feeling on this
One
one.
more.
To be fair, thinking
I was
about
like,
it now.
It does feel kind of weird, and I mean, maybe it needs to be second level. Like, that's
I don't
slightly
think-
less
I
spammable than
don't think-
first level.
I
I
don't think they
don't
would
think the
change
pro-
much on it.
I don't think the problem is that it's strong. I think the problem is that it's very easy to become invalidated. Yeah, unfortunately, William, we don't have a Discord. We don't have any of that stuff set up right now. We're just kind of like vibing and doing stuff. We should probably make a Discord, but
Yeah, then you can post all your stuff
that's a
on it.
good idea.
Why don't
Great
we,
idea, Ilwan.
Great
Why
idea,
don't we
man.
use this one?
It's only week 22.
because this isn't the Dead Bard's Discord. That's why. Also, this Discord sucks. We need
Sean
someone who's
said it,
actually
so
good
it's
at
all right.
we need someone who's good at making Discords to do that, and I'm not one of them. But yeah, I do kind of feel like at lower levels it's okay. Then at mid tier it's kind of meh and not really worth it. And it could be useful high level if you're doing the Justin fantasy of giving a bunch of people abilities. But like, is it worth that many first level spell slots for 1 hour of power on one person each?
Oh, see, and I
don't
thought
know.
Justin was saying that a wizard would choose it as their like at will first level spell.
No wizard's choosing this if they're at will, unless the DM could make a wizard that has this.
Wizard.
Yeah.
If a DM made a wizard that had this, it'd be pretty dope.
That'd be pretty fucking dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine if all of the fucking
Then you're
all the cards in your
Then you're just
campaign-
having fun at that point. And what are you even playing for?
Sid said, "I am here. I can meet discords." Thanks for volunteering, Sid. Okay, I'm just gonna move on just because I feel like this spell is a little bit weird, and I just like the idea of punching things from far away. And I
Yeah.
just wanted to make a spell that did that. But yeah, its utility is a little bit questionable. All right, moving on to the last spell, which is Zach's. Which we go
Okay.
ahead- do you want? Do you not
Yeah,
want to?
let's do it. This
Okay.
one's the roughest around the edges. I had a different
Alright.
idea, and then I had to change it because it was radiant. Anyways, Fractured Light. 4th level, evocation, druid, sorcerer, warlock, wizard, 1 action, range 120 feet, concentration up to a minute. Choose any creature within range that you can see. They must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, a target is surrounded in electrical energy. The target spreads sheds bright light in a 30-foot radius and gains 6 charges. Each time the creature is dealt damage, a charge is removed. The creature takes an additional 1d8 lightning damage, and the light radius lowers by 5 feet. On a successful save, the target is unaffected.
This is fucking awesome. I love this.
I think
Originally, I was going to make it the option to choose an ally to do this to, and then they have empowered strikes and shed the light, and it gets lower as they do that.
I think that it's better this way. This is so fucking
Yeah.
cool.
I think drop this down to 3rd level.
Yeah, that's fine. The levels were off when I made that.
Because that damage is very low
I mean, it's 6d8 lightning damage.
It's pretty low.
compared to fireball or lightning
Well, to be
bolts.
fair, it's 6.
Fireball
well, yeah, but
and
those
lightning bolts are
saved for
deliberately
half.
overtuned. You cannot use them to compare other 3rd level spells to.
They're
I
also
can
saved
and I
for
will.
half. They're also saved for half.
You're right. This is saved for none.
Yeah.
Honestly, you could maybe drop this down to 3rd level and up the damage to d10s. Then save for none would at least be like appropriate.
Yeah.
And I think this could be scalable on the number of dice that it can deal too.
Yeah, maybe every 2 levels increased by a D.
I mean,
That seems reasonable to me. I
or
think
just
obviously
give
increasing
more
it per...
charges.
Yeah, but the problem with more charges is that it requires your party to be able to hit the creature more to actually get the benefit out of it.
Yeah.
It's the same problem with like healing spirit. in a way where it's like if you just increase the charges, like
The 6 charges is specifically to go with the 30 feet of light.
Right, yeah, because you would have to increase
Oh.
the radius of the light too, because
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, it's 6 charges because I didn't want to overtune charges, and it makes sense with making it 30 feet of light, and then every 5 feet you lose a charge, you lose some light, you take some damage.
Yoan says they also do some D&D brewing from time to time. Well, we do it every single week. And if you want
except
to,
for the weeks where we decide not to.
yeah, that's true.
I think a Discord would be a great idea though, because then we can get people discussing stuff.
I think Discord is a great idea. It also would be easier for fans to submit ideas in the Discord than via our email, like we have it currently.
True.
Because we do at some point when we get a big enough following to do like reviewing of fan homebrews if they wanted to like send things in and have us talk about them, and then like be in the chat and give us their feedback and stuff. That'd be easier with Discord. But in the meantime, if you did want to send something to us, we do have an email. It's dbsocietymail@gmail.com. But yeah, we should probably get a Discord set up.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
It's a good idea. It's a good idea.
What? We're
Oh
decently
shit!
smart
You're dropping things right now. we would love to go over this right now. We are already over our time slot. We usually go to 8:30. We go from 7 to 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. So create chasm. I like the name of that spell, and I'll be happy to read that at a different time. And we'll definitely give our feedback on it. But right now, we do got to wrap things up. We do appreciate you coming in, though. And if you do want to like DM us at the Reddit or send us an email or something, we can look at it. We'll get the Discord set up. So maybe if you join us next week, we'll have that ready, perhaps. But yeah, fresh and light. I think we're all pretty cool with this spell. I think.
Yeah, I think this is great.
I think
I
it
think
could
it needs
definitely
some slight
scale.
tuning up, but
Yeah,
I think so. Make it a little bit more valuable.
I
over the
think
course
it would
of the
just
damage.
piss an enemy off because they're suddenly spreading light.
It would. It would definitely piss someone off, especially if there's someone who's trying to run away. Because that'll make it easier for them to spot, which is cool and touch.
Yep.
But yeah. Well, that's actually our last spell. We got through those last 4 spells pretty quickly.
Join us next week for Pasta Zone.
Pasta Zone.
Pasta
No, it's
Zone.
actually going to be elemental subclasses.
Yeah, we did elemental spells this week, and we were all kind of, I don't know, we all kind of liked it a little bit. So we're just going to make subclasses next time.
We
I
were
wanna-
still horny for the elements, so
It's always good to be horny for the elements.
I want to come up with Pasta Zone now and make it an annual thing.
No.
Zach, you could surprise us if you'd like.
Oh man, wait, no, Zach, team up with me. I want to do a
Yes.
Pasta Zone one shot.
There is a
What?
funny post that I saw. Someone was like, one thing I've learned in my experience of DMing or of playing D&D is that a lot of your original ideas when you first start playing aren't that original. Like everyone's made a cook character. It's like everybody's thought of being a cook. Everyone.
Everyone.
But yeah,
But
next
not
week.
a cook in the Pasta Zone.
Oh God.
All right, I've derailed enough.
All right. Any last words before we wrap things up, guys?
Today's word of the day is arrabbiata. It's a type of sauce. It comes from the Italian word that means angry, and it's great with pasta. It's a slightly spicy tomato-based sauce. Pasta arrabbiata. It's great. It's one of my favorites.
Pasta Zone.
You know what
Pasta
goes,
Zone.
you know what goes great with pasta?
Justice.
Water. Drink lots of
okay.
water with your pastas.
Damn. Stay hydrated, kids. All right, well, next week, like we said, we're coming back with elemental subclasses. That is next week, Wednesday, December 22nd at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard. And we'll see you next week. And that which is lost must be found, and that which is found must be remembered. See, I remember
remembered it
Justin.
this time.
I remembered
Bye,
even though I
everybody.
got the booster shot, and you were like, "Oh, we're gonna leave because your health.
Bye.
We're gonna have to
Bye.
fucking